Hey everyone, welcome to the APA reference list and in-text citation. Uh, this is probably going to be pretty long, according to how fast I talk, but let's go ahead and get started. So our overview are the basic elements, so the author, date, title, publication, and we'll be dissecting an article and a website. I'll probably repeat a little bit of my information, but you'll survive. So we're going to start with the author. So the author's name is inverted, last name, first name initialed, and middle name initialed if it is shown. We have an example there. So your reference list will be alphabetized by author's last name. We went through that in the APA formatting to make sure that your references are. So if you have several sources by the same author, you should list them chronologically. So the earliest date, publication date to the most recent. So we have an example there, 2001 to 2017. Also, if you have more than one author, even if it's just two authors, use the comma and ampersand sign. It's just to separate the author from the other author. Makes it a little bit more clear and less messy. Also, don't forget the period at the end of your last author. I've seen a lot of students make that mistake in the past. All right, so you can list up to 7 authors in your reference. You don't see this very often, but it does happen. So if you have more than 7, you would use an ellipsis, which basically tells the reader that it's continued. Continued authors, but it's too much to put in. Also make sure that you have a comma in between your last author and the ellipsis. All right, so this is something you'll need to know for Essay 2. So you're referencing a chapter in a book that's either an anthology, an encyclopedia, or a dictionary. So when you look at a normal book, there's only one author, and that author would go at the very beginning. However, it's different with an encyclopedia because the encyclopedia is made by an editor, or it's collected by an editor with several different authors in one. So when you find a chapter or a section in your encyclopedia, usually it'll tip off, you'll see a bibliography, and then you'll see the author's last name. But that person will be at the very beginning, and your editors will be at just behind the title and just before the title of the encyclopedia or anthology that you're using. Um, you'll introduce it by a capital I, capital N. So sometimes, like the Encyclopedia of Psychology, it doesn't have editors, or it does have a lot of editors, and it'd be way too much to put in a reference list. So this is a continuation, as you can tell. Oops. There's a comma in between the editors and the title of the anthology. But if you don't have an editor, such as an encyclopedia, most of the time, you would just do capital I, lowercase n, and you would do the encyclopedia's name, and then you would do page numbers from where you found it. Let me see. So another quick tip, so if you do have to do an editor, you would do capital E and D in parentheses and EDS if there's more than one. Granted, if there's more than 2, it gets a little hazy because, as you can see here, is completely different from when you do an author at the beginning of your reference list. So here you would have the first initial of his name, the first name initialed, the middle name initialed, and then you would have his last name spelled out at the end. And that's how you can tell the difference between editors and authors. All right, and encyclopedias. So in most cases, this is the only time, unless you're doing a direct quote or a block quote, is when you'll use page numbers. All right, so we'll go over the date. So the date is the year that material was published, posted, or produced, surrounded by parentheses at the end of a period, or at the end of the parentheses, there's a period. It's not inside the parentheses. So the only exceptions are websites, blogs, and videos. So that date will be year, month, and date. We'll go over that later on, but there's an example. All right, and then we'll go over the title. So titles of journals and book titles have to be italicized. They maintain the capitalization and the punctuation used in the title. So when you're going back to referring to book chapters, articles, web pages, you only capitalize the first word, and then everything else is lowercase. As you can see, don't forget to italicize. Um, the journal title is exactly as it would appear in your reference. So also, if you have a colon or a dash in your title of the article, you would capitalize the first word after the colon or dash. So here's an example here. Superman and Darth Vader are considered proper nouns. That's why they're capitalized. So you have your colon and then aggression, and then as you can tell, it goes back to lowercase. Unless they're proper nouns. If they're proper nouns, then you would also capitalize them as well. All right, your publication is pretty simple. So you have the location, the publisher. So it's the location of the city or state abbreviated. It's whatever you find in the copyright paper or page. So there's a full reference that we've built throughout our slide. All right, so we'll go over an article. So as I showed you in our database, there's a landing page. So the landing page gives you access to the author, the year of publication, the article title, the journal title, the volume, the issue number, page range, and the DOI. So the author, again, is inverted, last name first, initial. And you have your date, which is 2019 in parentheses, and then you'll have your article title. Remember, the first letter of the first word is capitalized. Everything else is lowercase unless after a colon or a dash. So your journal title should be italicized and maintain all capitalizations and punctuations used originally in the title. And your volume and issue number is italicized. So the volume number is italicized, the issue number is not italicized. So it needs to be placed in parentheses as you have in your example. So the 24 would be italicized, and make sure that your parentheses is not italicized. That can get some people. And then you'll have your issue number, and then you'll close up parentheses. So you'll have page numbers. So numerical is separated by a dash and a period at the end. So that is when you won't use the PP or the parentheses. It's kind of interesting how different they can be. Quick note, so there should be a comma between the journal title, volume number, and between the issue number and page number. So child, adolescent health, mental health, comma, 24, issue 1, comma. So this just means that it's in segments. It's kind of like if you go back to the encyclopedia where you have the editor and the anthology or the encyclopedia. It's one main thing, and it's just separated by commas. Okay, so we'll go over the DOI, which is the digital object identifier. So this goes at the very end of your article, and it is a must-have, especially for the newer articles, because every new article, I think past 2003, 2003 and older usually do not have DOIs, and sometimes you'll have to play with it. But the best way to find a DOI is to go to crossref.org, and you'll select the metadata option. and you'll copy and paste the title and you'll find your article that way. You would just copy the DOI and paste it to your reference list, unless your EBSCO or Galileo already has your DOI attached, which is usually the case. But if you can't find a DOI, you can use retrieve from the URL, and you would copy and paste the URL to get to the article landing page. All right, so that is our full reference that we've been working throughout our slide. Looks about right. So that is our DOI as well. So we're going to go over a website. So websites are a little different, but they set the same precedent as an article, except for a few differences. And also, once you master the website, you can master videos and blogs. So again, you have to have the four main basic elements, which is author, date, title, and location. So the author usually has 3 locations on your web page or your blog. So the best way to look for one is to find it at the end of the web page or article, the about page, which is normally where you find is normally the association websites. You can also find it underneath the title, heading, or under the heading of the written content. So the author can be a professional organization, as I said before, is an association website. So if you can't find an author, normally it is comprised by several writers in one organization. So they all claim it. So to be the American Counseling Association. Normally that's how it is, unless it specifically says this author wrote this article or content. So if you're unable to find the author, you would replace that with the title of the written content of the website. So in the author's place. So followed, and then you follow it by the date. So an example is all 33 Chile miners freed 2001 October 13th. And that's how you go. Make sure the date will always be behind, will always be second best. So the date. So this is where it gets a little wonky and some people get a little confused. So the publication date is the year, month, and date. It's completely different. I don't know why. But you have to spell out the month. You can't do abbreviations. There's only a comma after the year. And awesome though, if you can't find the date, it would be no date or ND. So the title, so you will treat that, the title of a website, as you would a title of an article. So the first letter in the first word of the title is capitalized, and everything else is lowercase unless it's after a colon. So it's basically the same as the article title. So also website articles are not italicized unless they are technical or research reports. So reports such as corporate author, government reports, task force report, filed online, report for a non-governmental organization, report. It's basically reports. So if you're doing something like AMFT ethical code, that would be italicized. All right, so location. So location section will be written as retrieved from URL. So it'll be retrieved from the website. And you'll have your example right here. Always remember retrieve from. Some students forget that, but yes. So it's pretty simple. Once you learn that, then it's really easy to do a blog and a website and videos and all this stuff. Also, if you have multiple sources from the same website, you need to cite each source. So you'll list them chronologically by date from earliest to most recent. No date will be your first in the list. But if you have the same date, you'll use a lowercase a, b, and c after the date within the parentheses. And this counts the same as if you're taking information, this like different information from the same book. You would just mark it as A, B, C, D that way. And there's an example right here. I know it's a lot, but it's got A and it's got B. So that's it. It's pretty simple. As you can see, it's from the same site, but it's got different. And it's the same if you're taking a different chapter from a book. You just do A and B. All right, take a breather, stretch out, do some things. This is not taking as long as I expected it, so that is a plus.